Imagine if everything you thought you knew about prayer was slightly off, not completely wrong, but missing something essential, something that quietly changes everything about how you connect with God. Most people grow up believing that talking to God requires the right words, a certain tone, or a kind of spiritual performance, as if there is a formula that guarantees you will be heard. But what if the truth is both simpler and deeper than that? When Jesus spoke about prayer, he stripped away all the unnecessary layers people had built around it. He didn't emphasize rituals, repetition, or public displays of devotion. Instead, he revealed something raw and real, a way of speaking to God that is rooted in honesty, humility, and relationship. He warned against empty repetition, where words are spoken again and again, but the heart is not truly engaged. He pointed out that many people pray as if they are trying to convince God to listen, as if God is distant, distracted, or unaware of their needs. But the reality is completely different. God already knows what you need before you even say it. That single truth flips the entire idea of prayer upside down, because it means prayer is not about informing God, it's about connecting with Him. One of the biggest mistakes people make is turning prayer into a transaction, thinking, if I say the right thing, maybe I'll receive what I want. But prayer was never meant to be a negotiation. It is meant to be a relationship. Think about how you speak to someone you deeply trust. You don't carefully script every sentence or try to impress them with complicated language. You speak naturally, honestly, sometimes imperfectly. That's the kind of communication Jesus was pointing toward. He even offered a simple model of prayer, not as something to repeat mindlessly, but as a framework to understand the heart behind. Real connection. It begins with recognizing who God is, not as a distant force, but as a father. That shift alone changes everything. A father is someone you can approach without fear, someone who listens, someone who cares deeply. Yet many people go wrong here. They either approach God with fear, feeling too unworthy to speak, or they become overly casual and forget the reverence that should still exist. Jesus showed both closeness and respect can exist together. You can come near, but you should still recognize the greatness of who you are speaking to. Another common mistake is making prayer entirely about personal needs, turning it into a long list of requests. But Jesus expanded the focus. He taught that aligning with God's will comes before asking for anything. That means instead of saying, God, do what I want, the deeper and more transformative prayer becomes, God, help me understand and follow what you want. This is where prayer begins to change you from the inside, not just your situation on the outside. And then comes trust, something that is easy to talk about but hard to live out. When Jesus spoke about asking for daily bread, it wasn't just about food. It was about dependence, about trusting that what you need will be provided at the right time. Most people struggle here because they want control. They want certainty. They want guarantees. But prayer invites you to release that control and step into trust, even when the outcome is unclear. Another critical piece that many people ignore is forgiveness. Jesus made it clear that holding on to resentment creates a barrier within your own heart. It's not necessarily that God refuses to hear you, but your ability to fully connect becomes limited because your heart is weighed down. Forgiveness is not about excusing what someone did. It's about freeing yourself from the burden of carrying it. When you let go, something opens up inside you, allowing a deeper connection with God to take place. Then there's sincerity. Jesus strongly warned against praying just to be seen by others, turning something sacred into a performance. In today's world, this can look like sharing every spiritual moment publicly for validation or trying to appear more faithful than you truly feel. But real prayer happens in the quiet, unseen moments when it's just you and God. No audience, no applause. No pressure. That's where authenticity matters most. And authenticity means you don't hide your doubts, your fears, or your struggles. Many people think they need to fix themselves before they can talk to God. But the truth is, prayer is where you bring the mess. It's where you admit what you're going through without filters or pretense. Jesus didn't teach people to pretend. He taught them to be real. And here's something that often gets overlooked: silence. Talking to God isn't just about speaking. It's also about listening. But listening requires stillness. And stillness is uncomfortable in a world filled with noise, distractions, and constant stimulation. Yet some of the most powerful moments in prayer happen when you stop talking and simply sit in that presence, allowing clarity, peace, or even conviction to rise within you. Another mistake people make is inconsistency. They only pray when something goes wrong, treating God like an emergency contact rather than a constant presence in their lives. But the pattern Jesus demonstrated was different: regular, intentional. Connection, not driven by crisis, but by relationship. This doesn't mean every prayer needs to be long or complex. Even a few sincere words can carry deep meaning if they come from the heart. What matters is not the length, but the authenticity. And then there's doubt. Many people pray, but deep down, they don't expect anything to happen. It feels like speaking into emptiness. But faith changes the tone of prayer. It doesn't mean you are certain about outcomes, but it means you trust that you are heard. That trust brings a sense of peace even before anything externally changes. And here's a deeper truth: prayer is not just about changing your circumstances. It's about transforming you. Sometimes the answer to your prayer is not a shift in your situation, but a shift in your mindset, your strength, your patience, or your understanding. That's why the correct way to talk to God is not about technique or perfection. It's about posture, a posture of humility, honesty, trust, and openness. When you remove the pressure to perform, when you stop trying to say everything perfectly, something begins to shift inside you. Prayer becomes less of a duty and more of a real living conversation. And in that space, you begin to realize something powerful: God was never far away, never waiting for you to figure it all out or get it perfectly right. He was always there, ready to listen, ready to respond in ways you may not expect, but always in ways you need. So the mistake to avoid is thinking that prayer is about perfection, about impressing God, or about earning a response. It's not. It's about connection. It's about showing up as you are, speaking from your heart, trusting that you are heard, and being willing to listen in return. When you truly understand this, prayer stops being routine and becomes something alive, something meaningful, something that not only shapes what you ask for, but transforms who you are becoming from the inside out.